The knock came just after sunset. When I opened the door, the HOA president, Claire Benson, stood on my porch with 3 men behind her, all wearing green polos and fake badges that gleamed under the porch light. Their eyes weren't friendly. They pointed toward my wife's car. "That vehicle's breaking community rules," Claire said smoothly. "We've had complaints." I almost laughed. My wife had just parked in front of our own house. Perfectly legal. But in our neighborhood, legality didn't matter. Power did. And these people had no idea who they were about to confront. Because my wife wasn't just another homeowner. She was the law, the calm before the storm. It had been a quiet night in Oak Ridge Estates, our pristine little cul-de-sac outside Austin, Texas. Sprinklers hissed across manicured lawns, and the air smelled faintly of wet grass and arrogance. I watched from the window as my wife, Sheriff Isabella "Izzy" Hart, stepped out of her black SUV. Calm, confident, completely unaware she was walking straight into trouble. She locked her car, adjusted her leather jacket, and started toward the house. That's when I saw Claire striding across the street like she owned the world, clutching her little folder of bylaws. The 3 guards followed close behind, puffed-up chests and smug expressions, like mall cops auditioning for a crime drama. I opened the door before they could knock. "Good evening," Claire said, smiling without warmth. "Your wife's car is in violation. Parking in front of your residence after 7 p.m. is prohibited. Under Section 8C. I looked at her like she'd just quoted scripture. "Complaints? From who?" "Anonymous," she said quickly, which meant herself. Izzy stepped beside me, silent, eyes sharp. The tallest guard spoke next, voice low and rehearsed. "You can move the car now, or we'll move it for you." That was the moment everything changed. Izzy didn't flinch. She didn't even look at me. Just that faint smirk. The one that said, "They have no idea what they've just stepped into." The reveal. Claire's voice grew louder, trying to fill the silence. "Failure to comply will result in maximum penalty. We can escalate this however far we need to." Izzy stepped closer. One slow, deliberate step. Her hands slid into her jacket pockets. The guards tensed. "Who do you think you are?" Claire hissed. "You can't ignore the HOA. No one ignores us." Izzy tilted her head slightly. "You really want to know who I am?" The guards stiffened as she reached inside her jacket. The tallest one actually stepped back. And then, she pulled it out. A golden badge. It caught the light like fire. The porch fell silent. Claire blinked fast, her mouth twitching as if trying to form words that wouldn't come. "Sheriff," Izzy said softly. Not loud, not boastful, just enough to make the word echo in the still air. The guards froze. Their fake authority melted away under the weight of the real thing. Claire tried to laugh. "That doesn't change anything. The HOA has rules." Izzy's smirk deepened. "Then let's talk about laws." The first line crossed. "You've been trespassing on private property," Izzy said, her tone sharp but calm. "You've threatened residents, impersonated security, and violated multiple statutes. Want me to keep going?" The guards' confidence cracked. One glanced toward the street, another fiddled with his badge. Claire's folder trembled in her hands. "This neighborhood is under HOA jurisdiction," she sputtered. "We enforce the standards. You can fine people," Izzy said evenly, "but you can't threaten them. And you sure as hell can't send unlicensed security to intimidate families. Do it again, and I'll treat it as criminal harassment." Silence fell. Curtains shifted as neighbors peeked from behind blinds. Claire's face drained of color. You can't scare us," she muttered. "We'll bring this to the board." Izzy chuckled, not kindly. "Do that. But when you do, remember this moment. Remember what real authority looks like." Claire didn't reply. She just turned sharply and stormed off, her guards stumbling after her. Their fake badges glinted under the streetlight like cheap costume jewelry. The retaliation. The next morning, everything looked normal. Kids rode bikes. Sprinklers hissed. But the quiet felt wrong. Too tight, too aware. Word had spread. Everyone now knew my wife wasn't just the woman in the black jacket. She was the sheriff. By noon, the HOA's revenge arrived, a letter. Notice of noncompliance. Trash cans improperly stored. Funny thing, it wasn't even trash day. Then came more letters. Grass too tall. Fence too faded. Mailbox not regulation height. Each one more absurd than the last. "They're trying to bury us in paper," I said, tossing the stack on the counter. Izzy just shrugged. Let them play. They'll dig their own grave. But I wasn't so calm. I started hearing things. Footsteps outside at night, whispers near the fence. Once, I caught a man in a green polo photographing our garage. When I confronted him, he ran straight toward the clubhouse. The next morning, another fine, hundreds of dollars. Then came the word foreclosure in bold. That's when I realized. This wasn't bureaucracy. It was war. The escalation. That evening, Izzy found her car tires slashed. The cut was clean, deliberate. She crouched beside it, jaw tight. Vandalism, she said flatly. They're crossing into criminal territory. We filed a report, but everyone knew how deep the HOA's connections ran. Nothing happened. The next night, more footsteps. 3 shadows near the mailbox. A whisper. A laugh. Then silence. I wanted to charge outside, but Izzy's hand stopped me. Not yet, she said quietly. They'll show their hands soon. The next morning, we found a note. Stuffed in our mailbox. For words, scrawled deep into the paper, leave before it gets worse. That was it. The showdown. It happened just after midnight 2 days later. Headlights cut across our front yard. Doors slammed. Voices barked orders in the dark. Claire Benson stood at the front, folder in hand, surrounded by 6 guards. Bigger, angrier, ready for a fight. You've ignored every notice, every warning, she shouted. You mock this board, but this ends tonight. Izzy stepped onto the porch, her face half lit by the porch light. Calm, controlled. Her badge gleamed in her hand. The tallest guard sneered. That badge doesn't mean anything here. This is HOA property. We make the rules. Izzy's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. This is private property. You're trespassing. And you're about 5 seconds away from being arrested. Claire scoffed. You think you can scare us? We can sue, fine, bleed you dry. Izzy cut her off. Then let's play your game. She lifted her radio to her mouth. This is Sheriff Hart. I need units at Oak Ridge Lane immediately. Trespassers in progress. The guards froze. You wouldn't, Claire stammered. Izzy's radio crackled back. Copy that, Sheriff. Units en route. And then, the sirens. They started faint in the distance, rising fast. When the red and blue lights hit the street, the guards' bravado evaporated. The neighbors' blinds snapped open. Phones came out. The perfect image of HOA dominance crumbled in real time. 2 deputies stepped out of the patrol car, badges gleaming. Evening, one said flatly. Sheriff called in a trespassing report. Looks like we've got a situation. This is HOA business. Claire sputtered. We have authority here. The deputy raised an eyebrow. Authority? Lady, HOA bylaws aren't law. You're trespassing. You're lucky we don't cuff all of you right now. Claire's mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. Izzy's voice was cool. These individuals came onto private property, issued threats, and attempted to damage my vehicle. All under false authority. The deputies took notes. The guards sweated. And the crowd, the entire neighborhood, watched the empire collapse. Claire tried one last gasp. You don't belong here. Izzy smiled faintly. Neither do you. The reckoning. By the next morning, the HOA's power was cracked beyond repair. But Claire wasn't done. Another letter appeared. 4 words again. We don't forget. That night, our floodlights went dark. Wires sliced clean. The next morning, our mailbox hung twisted, letters scattered across the lawn. One note among them said, move out. That was it for Izzy. She gathered everything. Every letter, photo, violation, and threat. With help from a few brave neighbors, she collected camera footage of guards sneaking across lawns and vandalizing property. And the biggest evidence of all, fingerprints from the spray-painted message, get out, they'd scrawled across our garage door. They matched one of Claire's guards. Deputies moved fast after that. The following week, as Claire held another emergency meeting to discuss foreclosing on us, officers entered the clubhouse mid-session. They didn't knock. They served papers. Charges, harassment, trespassing, vandalism, conspiracy. Neighbors recorded everything. The gasp as Claire's folder dropped. The stunned faces of her guards as handcuffs clicked. This is a witch hunt, she screamed. She's abusing her badge. But the crowd didn't buy it anymore. They'd seen too much. 2 board members resigned that night. Another slipped out the back. By morning, the HOA existed only on paper. Stripped of its teeth. No more letters. No more fake fines. No more late-night footsteps. Just peace. The aftermath. A week later, our street looked different. Quieter. Lighter. Neighbors started waving again, hesitant but sincere. One even crossed the street to say, "We should have spoken up sooner." Izzy just smiled. "It's over," she said. But I wasn't so sure. That night, as I stood on our porch, the same porch where she'd stood her ground, I thought about everything that had happened. HOAs don't run on rules. They run on fear. And once fear is gone, all that's left is paper and people too small to stand behind it. For now, the neighborhood was calm. But I knew Claire's kind. They don't disappear. They wait. They plot. And when they come back meaner than before. Still, I looked at my wife, her badge gleaming in the light, and smiled. Because whatever war might come next, I already knew who'd win.